Joining me this week is Dr. Joanna Gamble, owner of Wildberry Pediatric Practice. Joanna, how's it going?
I'm great, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for asking. Before we dive in, what's something about your journey that people are always surprised to learn?
Great question. I was going to open a food truck before I became a dentist. So I worked on a food truck in Atlanta, Georgia. It was called Mighty Meatballs. And I scooped like thousands of meatballs. And I was like, I just can't do this every day. This is horrible. But I love cooking. And that's why I wanted to open a food truck. So I had like a concept and everything.
Mighty Meatballs, you said?
Yeah. It helped me pay for some of my like pre-dental classes because it was a career change for me. So I was kind of like in the trenches with all these, on and end jobs. So yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, interesting. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. So then let's start with a quick snapshot. What
Yeah.
kind of practice are you running today, and what makes it different in how it operates or serves patients?
So Wildberry is different because we are really rooted in our community.
Hmm.
It's really important to me that we are the face and ingrained in the Wake Forest community, which is where I live. I mean, I'm sure all pediatric dentists, I would hope that they treat their patients as their own. I really do. Each plan that I have for a patient, it involves my recommendations along with the parents' recommendations and preferences. So I really take that to heart. I really like to meet the patients and families where they are. And I pride myself on being like a pillar of the community, or at least trying to. We've only been open for a month. So
Okay. And that's the interesting part. So you've been open for a month right now.
yeah.
Talk to me about that. Like before the expectations and then after the expectations, were they met, or how was it ramping up for opening day?
So we started marketing in March. We did multiple community events. We really went hard at a whole bunch of different community festivals. We sponsored like 4th of July for Wake Forest, this huge festival. We were at the farmers market like every weekend. Me and my family like doing scavenger hunts with the town kids and stuff. We went to like STEM events. That was really fun for me, to get involved in the community and to really talk about my brand and build my brand before we opened our doors. And I was super active on social media. After the kids went to bed, I was, posting all this stuff. And then we've opened and now I'm in it, right? So
Mhm.
it looks different. We've received such good feedback that it makes me feel really great about all the work that we put in. But I have to be much more intentional about building those community connections now that we've opened because my brain and my body are being pulled in so many different directions, right? There's the admin portion, I'm managing staff and the dentistry, and there's leaks in the roof and all of this stuff that wasn't an emergency before we open. And now everything is like an emergency. So,
Interesting. So
yeah.
then all these events and the marketing, the ground marketing and everything that you were putting into, did it pay off, or do you feel like it was just a lot of noise?
Oh my gosh, Michael, it paid off. We had over 200 patients on our wait list before we opened our doors. I listened to your podcast, okay? And I just like do what you say to do. So
Yeah.
we had the sign-in sheet and we had people signing up that way. We would follow up with them. We raffled things off. We connected with them. We also had like a VIP waitlist thing on our website. We collected over 200 names, which we still actually have not gone through. We've tried to call them, but we've been getting so many calls now that we're open that we're not totally through that wait list yet. I ask parents every time they come in, how do they hear about us? And over half the time it's from a community event that they met me. Somebody just called today and they had met me at an event back in Easter, which was like April. And they said, yeah, like we're finally bringing the kiddos in. So, I mean, I say it would definitely pay off. I would do it 10 times over. Actually, we have an event coming up on Saturday. So it's a back to
Oh,
school
cool.
event in downtown Raleigh.
How'd you get into that one, the back to school one?
So I went to an event in June, which was like totally unrelated. It was just hosted at the downtown park. And the Parks and Rec person was there. And I got to talking to her about how I am a pediatric dentist. And I had been at the event, the week prior. And she said, oh, there's a back to school event happening. We would love to have you. And I said, yeah, sure, sign me up. And so she did. And so now I'm going. So that's how I got into that one. But I joined the Chamber of Commerce for Wake Forest and then Rolesville, which is a neighboring town. And I'm really involved with the Chamber of Commerce. And so we sponsor a lot of their events and get involved that way too. We try to do at least 1 to 2 community events a month.
And at these events, are you there too, or is it more your whole team, or do you have like a specific plan on who goes out and stuff like that, or no?
There was no team before July. So it was me and my husband and my kids. So we were the team. And I had some volunteers. So I sat on a panel at NC State University at their pre-dental society. And I said, I'm looking for volunteers for my startup. and I had a lot of interest. And so I made, a spreadsheet and I contacted these undergrad students, pre-dental students. So I did have some volunteers that would come and, support and help, which was super helpful because they were really engaged and excited. And we did have some events where we had 2 tents. So I needed more support. I'm at all of them. And I think it really matters for me to be there because parents have questions and it just means a lot for, I think, the doc to be there.
Yeah, big time, especially with pediatrics. What do you kind of offer at these events? Or like, what's your incentive?
That's a good question. So my go-to is make your own goodie bag. I do Play-Doh, Slinkies, and bubbles, and the kids just like make their own goodie bag. Before we open, I had a little handbill, like a quarter sheet that said, I had a QR code, said scan me, it would take them to our website, and it said opening in June. So that was like preloaded in a little plastic baggie, and the kids would make this bag. As the kids were making the bag, I would talk to the parents about what Wildberry is, encourage them to sign up on our waitlist. And then typically I would also raffle off like something, and that would also encourage them to sign up. And I'd say, oh, well, it's only me that sees this information. And the doctor is my practice, and you'll be entered to win. I did a year-long membership to a local museum. I've done tickets to like a children's museum locally and just different, experience type stuff.
What do you do with the people who don't win and you still have their contact information?
We still contact them. And that's the list that we're going through. So we added them to the wait list. And so those are the ones that we contact. But when I tell them, I don't hype up the raffle, although it's cool. It's more like, this is Wildberry. It's going to be a great space. I want you and your family to be there. You want to be there. And also, if you put your name on this list, you might win this thing.
I like that though.
Yeah, the people that won were like super excited because it's a cool thing to win, but the raffle was just more so like a cherry on top.
Yeah. So then where do you think sometimes we get it confused? Because we feel like we have to have like a huge incentive or something big. And then, oh, by the way, please come by our office. But it feels like you did it the other way around.
I mean, I really got used to the conversations when I was at the farmer's market because those parents, they're moseying around, they're looking at like arugula and stuff. And, it's slow paced. So I really had a chance to just talk to them, make a comment about their kid or like what they were picking up. And we just started a conversation and I explained to them like, hey, I used to be a kindergarten teacher. I'm opening a practice right down the street. I'm in a unique situation where there's only one other pediatric dentist in my zip code. So there aren't really that many pediatric dentists in the area. So people were excited, and especially new families, young families, they want to be involved in their healthcare for the most part for their kids. And so it was cool for them to be able to talk to the provider. So I just talked about the office and I was really excited about the design of the office. I used a local designer from a coffee shop in the area that's really popular. So that was a cool talking point. And I just had conversations with them. And then you could win tickets to the zoo or whatever. Yeah. So that's kind of how I
gotcha. What were some of the main like objections?
Some people would just say like, yeah, like we already have a dentist that we like and we're not looking for anyone. And I was like, okay, great, whatever. And then honestly, I would see them again at the next farmer's market and they would like put their name down anyway, and I would just say, I'm the only one that sees this. It's not selling your information. It's just me. It's just to stay in touch. Like we're always here for you. It's kind of how I'd put it. We'll be here if you need us. And then the different touch points, like if I saw them at another event, then they kind of knew like, okay, you're not just some weirdo that's going to be here once. You're here to stay. So I think that helped.
I liked it a lot. So the objections are mainly like, would they go up, grab free stuff and still say like, no, I have a dentist or?
Yeah, like sometimes they would. Like sometimes the kids would get a goodie bag and, and the mom would be like, oh, well, we already have a dentist. Like kind of try to keep the kid away from it. I'm like, it's fine. Like it's just Play-Doh. They can have it. Don't worry about it. And so I think just like breaking down those barriers and making it not salesy and making it not like transactional kind of helps make people feel more comfortable. And who knows, like maybe some of them didn't sign up that day, but maybe they have friends. That's what I would tell them. I would say, hey, well, we're new to the area. If you have any friends that are looking for a pediatric dentist, like we're here, we're accepting patients.
Gotcha. I'd be like, hey, put my stuff down. Okay, go to the next table kind of a thing.
No, we can't do that. The kids would be so sad.
So how do you deal with kids who come, grab freebies without parents?
Well, I thought the handbill was really nice for that because it wasn't just like a blank goodie bag. It at least had our logo, our number, our website, and then a scan me, and it said opening in June. So at least the parent knew where they were getting it from and then what business it came from. So I think that really helped. But that didn't really happen too much because it's a lot of young kids. So the parents were typically like right behind them.
Oh, okay. Got you. That's interesting. Now, the budget, if you can break it down for me, like what was the stuff that you gave out for freebies? What did the budget look like?
Yeah, I would say for each of these events, I actually just made a purchase for the one on Saturday, so I know. About 150 is like where I like to keep it for the items. I typically order about 100 to 150 of each item that's going to go into the bowl. So I like 100 little tiny Play-Dohs, 120 bubbles, 100 sticky hands or whatever. And then sometimes I'll use a local copy business to make those handbills. So that might be an extra $50 or so. So I would say overall, like around 200 is the max that I would spend on goodies. And then whatever raffle I do, maybe that's 100, 150.
So it's just a bowl and you put a bunch of like the Play-Dohs or the sticky hands.
Dollar Tree clear bowls. And I filled one up with Play-Doh, one up with bubbles, one up with Slinkies. And then I had a basket that had the goodie bags that already had the handbill in there. And so my volunteers or myself would kind of be like standing outside of the table and we'll hand a goodie bag and say, hey, do you guys want to make a goodie bag? And of course, like kids want to make them. And so they'll come in and put their items in the goodie bag. And then that's it.
And then they'll just grab the stuff. And you're talking to the parents, you're asking them, hey, hyping up your practice and everything like that. They sign up and you tell them you'll call them within.
I don't. Well, in the beginning, it was hard because I didn't really, I know. And you say to call like within, a day. I couldn't because we hadn't opened our doors yet. I was on my phone, right? I had connected our phones to my cell phone, and that's all I had for the first 4 or 5 months. I did email after the first month and said, hey, here's some updates. I sent some pictures of the construction and I said, like, basically hang tight. We're opening in about a month and, we'll follow up with you guys soon. There was a challenge because we saw people were excited. And, as we were continuing our social media, people were also signing up on the website. So they would sign up on the paper waitlist, but then also signed up on the website. And then once we opened, they started calling. So it got a little complicated because we had multiple points to track them. It still is a little bit challenging. Now we have to cross-reference our lists with everything to make sure, but it's a good problem to have. So
yeah, that's true. You have a lot more people like hurry up and open kind of a thing, right? You also mentioned STEM events.
Yes, this one was so cool. I can't believe I forgot about this one. It was my favorite. So this was a STEM event hosted by the town of Wake Forest, and they had high school students that were in robotics clubs and engineering clubs and all this cool stuff. I was the only dentist and I'm like, what the crap am I going to do at a STEM event?
Yeah.
So I made models of 2 of the teeth and I did a cavity prep on 2 of them. And then I made 200 of them. Yeah. And I put Play-Doh to represent the decay in the tooth. And then at the station, kids had to scoop the Play-Doh out of the little model, and they used real dental instruments. I bought spoon excavators, and then I used craft resin that they were able to like fill it up and do a restoration with. And we got them sunglasses, and I had, eye protection to cover up when we shine the UV light, and it cured it. They got to pick their color, and then they got to take that home. I had a couple of signs that had the process of decay and what it does to your tooth, and then like how we were going to replicate this in this model. And the kids loved it. They ate it up. It was really fun.
And from that event, how many, I guess, like leads came from that?
About 40 to 50. So that was really great. It was only children and families. It was really great.
Wow, that's really good. So if you can tell me, Joanna, like if you can give us advice in the sense of go to these type of events or do this type of ground marketing, and this didn't really work for me, so take that what you want kind of a thing. So like a good one and a bad one.
Yeah, I don't have any bad ones yet, but I will say expensive and least expensive.
Okay.
So least expensive was the farmers markets and these other like community events I'm doing, like the back to school one. Like parks and recreation and community centers oftentimes have free events and they'll have vendors there for free or like really, minimal. I think I paid like $30 to be at the farmers market. I was supposed to pay $30, but they didn't charge me because I created a scavenger hunt for the farmers market where I had like a bingo card with the different vendors at the farmers market. And so at this one, in order for the kids to get a goodie bag, they had to go to the different vendors and get a stamp. And in the beginning of the farmers market, I gave each of those vendors a little stamp. So they had to like visit each of those vendors, get a stamp, and then come back to my booth and they would get a prize. And the vendors loved that so much because it encouraged families to visit a whole bunch of different vendors. So I actually didn't have to pay because they were so happy about that. So that's maybe a tip people could use. And then most expensive ones were through the town because those ones, are for businesses that they want people to sponsor. So the sponsorships ranged from like $500 up to, $2,000 to be there. And we did some of those, because we really wanted to go hard in the beginning. So we did a lot with that. But I don't do any like Google ads or I don't pay anyone to do marketing. Like it's me, it's these events. Like this is what I'm spending for marketing. So that's how I justify it.
I was going to ask you, why did you decide to go just that route right now with ground marketing and not like, hey, let's have an agency, right? And then have them
Yeah.
do the website and everything.
I interviewed a bunch of different companies and heard what they had to say and like saw the investment that I would need to make. And like I mentioned, like I really wanted to get involved in the community and I just wanted like to be in the community, meet families, talk to people. And I just couldn't do that from behind a screen. And so that's kind of why I wanted to start there. And it blossomed from there. I've met so many people, that have connected me with other people. Right now, I don't foresee needing to have a marketing agency or anything. I'm not saying it will never happen, but right now I'm really enjoying pouring into the community.
So then who did your website?
I did have a web developer do my website, and his name is Sabraz, and he has a company called Rancour, and he's a great job. We worked together to go over the content, and it was really affordable. It reminds me of the other website company that you had on your podcast a lot.
No, but that's awesome that you decided to like dive into this, right? When it came to
Yeah.
ground marketing. And it's interesting how like the more you do it, more things happen, not just new patients, right? But like more connections and more events and more things. So that's really, really good. But the $2,000 sponsorship,
Yeah.
that involved what?
Yeah. I probably won't do that again. I did two of those for this year. So the $2,000 one was for 4th of July. And I got to make a speech at the event, like with however many thousands of people were there, which was cool. And we got a table. There was only like 5 or 6 tables that were there. It was a firework event. So I don't think I would do it again. But the one that I do think was helpful was another one that was similarly priced. And that was called Meet in the Street. And it's our town's largest festival. I had 2 booths. So the $2,000 I spent was for multiple locations. So I sponsored a whole section of the event. And I sponsored the youth entrepreneurship section, which is where kids that are 8 to 14, they get to sell their goods, which was so cool. So I really enjoyed like talking to the families and the children and buying their stuff. And that was really nice.
Nice. Okay. That's really good. So then when it comes to this, looking at where your practice is now from a month ago, or even from the starting point of the phase, right? Where you're like, I'm going to start my own practice. What key decisions helped shape its current identity or business model?
The designer that I chose, it was a designer who had never designed a dental office before. I really wanted to bring like a homey feel. And I think that it really helped make it fresh to have someone that was not experienced in dental for the interior design, not like the architecture. So I think that, really helped form Wildberry. It's so colorful and it just really feels like home. And that sort of helps bring the theme together. I think also really just sticking to my part in the layout. I think a lot of times when dentists are designing their space, it can be very overwhelming to think about the square footage and how many rooms to fit in there. And there were so many times that I got advice saying like, you need to fit 3 more rooms in there. Every room is X amount of money. Like you need more chairs. And I just didn't want to do that because that's why I was opening my own, right? Like I wanted a comfortable space that would allow families to feel safe and allow me to feel safe to practice the way that I want. And so I pulled back and I only have 5 chairs in my office. One of them is just a huge room with toys and a nursing chair and a beanbag. And it's just a toddler room for young kids. I mean, I have 2 toddler boys of my own. So that was an important space to have. So I think really sticking to what I wanted in the beginning throughout the whole process, because it's a long, arduous process. And I could see how people change their plan a lot. But sticking to why I wanted to do it and making sure that that shows throughout all aspects of the office was really important to me.
Interesting. I guess you're sticking to your why, but then you're kind of thinking like, I'm sharpening my why. I'm refining it. So that does involve maybe some changes. How do you know the difference between that and then like, oh man, I'm totally lost in the change now?
Yeah, I would know that if I was in it and thinking like, oh crap, this room is too small and miserable. My team doesn't have anywhere to sit, or the team is unhappy. My team is really important to me because they are the ones that show up every day. And so I think the ultimate goal of opening your own practice is to be comfortable and to love where you work, right? So if I show up and I don't like it, then something went wrong.
Yeah.
But that hasn't happened. Now, I built 5 rooms, but I also made sure that I outfitted my office to be transferred to a room if I decide to expand. So I wanted to do like the best of both worlds, right? Like I could have a sixth room if I wanted to, but
Yeah. So then how many team members do you have right now?
right now we have two. I have one front desk and then one assistant.
Okay. So then when hiring, what's been your most effective filter for finding people who actually will help the practice grow and not just fill a role?
My husband, he's in HR, so he handles all of that. He works for Microsoft and he is in HR there. So he really helped me and continues to help me. We tried it where he just did a phone interview and then I did the in-person interviews. And I was like, everybody's great, hire everybody. And that did not work out. So now we pulled it back and he is doing the interviews and he's really good at feeling people out. But I think what does help, it's less of like their dental knowledge and more of their personality and the sense that he can get for how professional and respectful and responsible that they'll be and the truth in which they present themselves. And he's honed the skills on how to tell that from a conversation. But I would say that that's the most important for hiring people because the dental skills we can teach, but willingness to learn, being respectful, being punctual, being eager to dive in, you can't really teach those. So
Interesting. I like how you said that, the truth in which they present themselves in. Do you ever sit in on any of these interviews with him?
I was sitting in on them and I would do the second round, but I just don't have the HR feelies. It's hard for me to know that people aren't presenting their genuine selves. And
Yeah.
people do that. And it's hard for me to tell and to believe that they're not being genuine.
So can you recall maybe an interview or a moment where you felt like it was a good fit, but then your husband was like, not a good fit? And I'll tell you why.
Yeah, like all the time. I'm trying to think of like a specific one. We had one person who came onto our team and he did a phone interview with them, and then I had the in-person interview. Very delightful, very eager, very excited. I maybe didn't ask the right questions. Maybe I was too excited to share about Wildberry and, didn't sort of ask the right questions to kind of understand their situation a little bit better. And then there was like some red flags after that with their responsiveness that I felt like was a little inappropriate. And then they eventually did come on to join us. And then 3 days later, they quit and said that they found something closer to home and all this stuff. But I think that probably had Alfred done the in-person interview, he would have known that that wasn't the right fit. And he wasn't sold on it in the beginning. And I was like, it's fine. They're great.
What was the, if you don't mind me asking, if I dig a little bit deeper, unresponsiveness that you
Oh,
felt?
yeah, sure. Yeah. He sent an offer letter and then they didn't respond at all for over a week, which in the grand scheme of things doesn't seem like a big deal. But when you give 2 weeks and we expect you to start in 2 weeks, that was kind of a big deal.
Mhm.
So actually, we had kind of washed our hands of it. And I posted in a Facebook group for like dental professionals in the Triangle area a job opening.
Mhm.
And within an hour, the applicant reached back out and said, oh, I can't wait to start at Wildberry. And I thought that was interesting because I'm like, oh, well, I just posted your job.
Yeah.
So obviously you saw this post and then you followed up, but why wouldn't you have followed up before that? That made me feel like they weren't prioritizing us and they weren't truly excited to start or eager because Alfred had emailed multiple times before that and had not gotten a response. So that was like a little awkward. And then we decided to move forward and give them a chance. And then it didn't work out. So it's okay.
Okay. Interesting. So is there some things where if you're watching Alfred and you're like, oh, snap, I would have never thought about asking that or doing that or the way your thought process works?
I think he just listens a lot more than I do and doesn't share too much information.
Oh, that's interesting. What do you mean by that?
When people ask certain questions, he will flip it back on them, because we're only open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If they say, are you going to open on Monday soon? I would say, yeah, we really hope to open in 6 months. He would say something like, oh, maybe, is that important to you?
Yeah.
Flip the question back on them and they'll say, well, actually, it is because I have another job that I have to give notice to or whatever. And he's good at kind of pulling information out of people.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's just say a lot of them are good fits. What was the qualities or the principles from these two hires that you hired that were, this is Wildberry?
I would say for my DA, they were really eager but serious about wanting to be in a startup and wanting to build something from the ground up and wanting to come into a role that allowed them to grow. She was at an office that unfortunately like the doctor left. And so she was on that path and it was stifled for her. And she just hadn't been able to find an office that offered her that same wing to grow under because that doctor was really showing her the ropes. So that was, for my dental assistant and for my front desk, she I was so eager and so bubbly and so excited and had prepared all of these references with letters of references like specifically to me, which was really impressive. I could tell that it was like for Wildberry. It wasn't just, some like chat GPT
Yeah, yeah,
letter.
yeah.
And so that was really meaningful that she had went through the time to actually get people to write personal letters of references without me, prompting that at all. And she was just so eager and excited to be a part of something from the ground up. And she had already done that in the past. So she wanted to do it again.
That's
Yeah.
good. Good work then. And so right now, is there a system or workflow in your practice that gives you a clear operational advantage? Something you believe more practices should adopt, but maybe you haven't really heard of it or they don't?
Well, I don't know what other practices do, I guess, but I will say it is really important for me to have systems in place. I hear it all the time, and every time I heard it, I was like, what does that mean? But for me, as I'm in it now, it's things like when a patient walks into the door, what should have already be done before they walk into the door, and then what needs to be done before they take a step into the next area into our office. So I had to write a check-in checklist for my front desk. And this is really specific to my practice because we have, a cloud-based dental software. Like every software is different, right? So every clicky that you're doing in a different software is different. I have Oryx. And so we have a very specific check-in list that things need to be checked off, the medical history, the insurance needs to be updated, the forms need to be signed, and all of these things need to be checked off and verified. And then you can mark them ready to be seated. When they see ready to be seated, then the dental assistant has their own checklist that they need to check for. Some of it is a duplicate for the front desk. So we have like checks and balances, and some of it is, new. And then they'll be able to mark them as the next step. And that took a long time. I only developed that a couple of weeks ago because we were just kind of winging it. We didn't really know. We were all figuring out the software. We were all figuring out each other. We were all figuring out where everybody should be going. That's one system that's been helpful. And the system for scheduling treatment, that handoff had another checklist. So I have a whole bunch of checklists. And I feel like at least if we have had a, discussion and we can reiterate and I can say, hey, where's this item on the checklist? Remember, I want you guys to be using this. Also, they have to sign off at the end of the day for a closing checklist that they've fulfilled. And that helps because I find in other offices, people just kind of like do whatever they want and nobody really knows what anyone's supposed to be doing. And that's not really helpful. So,
Yeah. Interesting. So then the checklist that you created and have, is this from experience or is this because of a coach or consultant or?
no, it's from, I was a kindergarten teacher.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, before I became a dentist, I was like, what inspired me to become a dentist. But I taught kindergarten, and in the elementary school that I taught, which has since been torn down, there was a dental clinic in the basement, which is so random and weird. So my students would go to their dental appointments like in the middle of the day and then come back upstairs with like silver crowns. And I thought that was so interesting. And I had just never seen anterior facing stainless steel crowns on the front teeth. And so it just really inspired me. I did a program called Teach for America, which works to close the gap in access to education. And so instead of education, I switched that to try to close the gap in access to healthcare. So that's, what inspired me to become a dentist.
Wow.
So anyways, that's where the checklist came from, love a list. But really it came from working in other offices and seeing the shortfalls and really the struggle that the team had to understand why they were being scolded for different things or why they were getting in trouble or just like unhappiness that parents were experiencing. I just felt like it could all be solved if everyone had a clear understanding of their expectations. We're still working through that at Wildberry, but I do like to have it written down and we talk about it every day.
No, I think that's fantastic, having a checklist. So you really know the ins and outs of like how to talk to a child and things like that and teach them and so forth.
Yeah. And the parents, more
Yeah.
importantly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. The parents. Interesting. That's really good. So then do you also know how to, I guess, ground market or get inside schools?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't visited many schools yet. It is really hard actually to get into schools here. A lot of the schools are like charter schools in my area. And that's hard because it's not like you can just email somebody off of the public school website. We have been to a couple fairs, spring flings and stuff for local elementary schools. So I emailed the PTA and we make connections through there. So we sponsor a couple of elementary schools. We've been to their like spring carnivals and that type of thing.
And that's pretty good.
It was really crazy. I don't know how many patients we've got from there. Because that's the thing with doing all these different community events. Like people will just say like, oh, I think I saw you here and also there. But we definitely have had a couple of patients come from the carnivals that we went to.
Nice. That's good stuff. So then when it comes to external companies, especially for a startup,
Mhm.
what company or software or service had the biggest impact on your growth or your sanity?
I would say Oryx has been a huge help. I have some other friends that are also using Oryx, and sometimes we talk about like, hey, did we make the right decision? But you don't know what you don't know, right? Every software has its pitfalls, but what I really appreciate about Oryx is that everything is in the same area. Like, I don't think I would be able to stay sane if I had to download patient information and forms from one website and sync it to this website and then link it to this other website. Like, that would be too much for me. So having everything in one space and like only having my team be able to train with one software really helps. My front desk is like best friends with one of the guys, Kevin from Oryx. They talk like every
Mm.
day about, different stuff. And that's helpful for her to be able to talk to him about everything from insurance to payments to like the my chart profile. So that's been really helpful. Yeah.
Okay. So Oryx is one.
Yeah.
What's a painful mistake or failure you went through in your practice? Something you wouldn't want to repeat, but you're glad it happened.
Back in the design phase, I do wish that I would have paid more attention to the timeline of selecting equipment because I didn't think about the fact that the equipment had to have its own design. There's like engineers on the equipment side that have to be involved and create their own set of plans. And that really put us really far behind because I was dragging my feet on making equipment decisions. I'm left-handed. And so the layout of my office was really important to me. So the architect had kind of finished his piece and like his guys were already doing, their thing. And it wasn't until they were almost done that he was like, "Oh, I need the design drawings for the equipment." And I was like, "What does that mean?" So then it took another like 3 weeks for them to get that in. And that kind of pushed us 3 weeks to a month behind because then the equipment designers had to give that to the architects and the architect had to combine that with their designs. And so it really put us behind like a month.
Who did you go with equipment and architect?
My architect is Richard Redfoot. He's a local architect here in the Triangle area. And equipment, I went with Atlanta Dental. I had a friend who opened a pediatric office in somewhere in Florida, and he mentioned them, and I really like them. It's a smaller company, so
Nice.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then one of the last questions I wanted to ask you is like, what personal sacrifices or wins have come with building this practice? How do you manage the tug of war of work and life?
Sacrifices, like I mentioned, I have two young boys, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and there are many nights, especially in the first month, where I felt very overwhelmed and like, did I do the right thing? I still was able to be there physically for bedtime and stuff, but mentally, I was not. In the beginning, it was really stressful. I was always thinking about the practice. There was always like a fire to put out. We had all these leaks in the office and all this stuff to handle. And I still feel like I don't know when I'll be able to feel okay. I don't know when I'll be able to breathe a little bit more. I can breathe a little more than I did a month ago, so that's hopeful. But a win I would say is that, and it's kind of like one and the same. My kids are super excited about the office. They love going to Wildberry. They can identify like all of our shirts now, and it's really become, a thing. My 3-year-old asked me to tell him stories about going to the dentist every night. So that's cool,
Yeah.
it makes me proud to know that, he knows that his mom owns her own practice and that they can go there and play. And he likes to give people tours of the office.
Oh, that's so cool.
I know, it's like so funny. So I like that. I'm encouraged. We saw 58 patients our first month and
Wow.
we've surpassed that this month already. I think we've seen over 70. So things are looking up.
Yeah. No, it's going really, really fantastic. That's awesome. Do you think, Joanna, if it was like this, the way you're feeling right now for the next 3 years, you'd be like, no, I'm done.
Literally right now, I would say I'm fine. It's okay. A month ago, no, I was really overwhelmed because there's so much pressure when you start seeing patients because everything is on me. People see like a spider on the floor. Oh my God, I have to call an exterminator. They see a ceiling tile that's stained, and it's not just a ceiling tile. It's like, where's that coming from? Someone has a poor interaction with someone on the phone, which hasn't happened. Nobody's had a poor interaction, but every phone call, I was super stressed. I'm like, are they representing me? Are they saying the right things? Are they giving them wrong information? And then there's the dentistry, right? Like, am I doing an actual good job with the teeth? Which is like,
Yeah.
what did all of this? So, I want to use all these really great materials. Like, how am I going to afford it? So definitely a lot more to deal with and think about than an associateship. But, I get a dichotomy because I am still working at another office 2 days a week. And when I go to that other office, there's things that are really awesome that I can just leave and not think about it again. But there's also things that I'm like, oh, I'm so happy that I have Wildberry to go back to. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, my happiest days are at Wildberry. I'll say that.
What are the things, if you don't mind me asking, at the other office where you're like, oh man, I'm so happy I have Wildberry?
I don't like nitrous carts. And again, being a left-handed dentist is just kind of a
Mm,
bummer. It's really hard to find places that really think about that. While everyone is really great there, the layout isn't ideal for peds. So like they don't have any closed treatment rooms. They don't have like any quiet rooms for, patrons that are having a tough time. And
mhm.
so that's challenging, when we have kiddos that are a little sad and everybody can hear them in the office. So sometimes I wish that was different. And also just like everything, the materials, I can't choose my materials. I can't order my own. And I like to have things the way that I like them.
Yeah,
So I like that, when I am at Wildberry, I can say, oh, I want to try this other material. I'm just going to get it. And then we'll just start using it.
that's nice. It's your own business. Yeah, of course, you want to do your own thing. Interesting. So now that you're not feeling overwhelmed, is there anything specific that you do that kind of eliminated that?
The systems really helped. I will say one thing that I did, I implemented an end of day email that my front desk has to send. And that kind of helps keep her in check and also me. And it has the production that we had for that day. It has the unconfirmed patients for the next day. It just has some statistics, the hygiene reappointment rate, the treatment acceptance rate. And she emails me the deposit slip for the day. And so just having that in a record gives me a snapshot of the day. And that takes a little bit off my back. And I've also gotten more used to the systems within Oryx and how to file claims and just practice, right? Now that we've been getting, reimbursements in, I'm more used to what it looks like, how to enter it and log it. And so getting all those systems in place for what my day looks like and what my front desk day looks like, it's more predictable. I'm not just kind of all over the place like, will we get a check today? Even if we do, what do we do with it? So
Hmm.
now that we know more of where everything goes, it's helped make me less anxious.
Awesome, Joanna. Thank you so much for being with us. It's been a pleasure. But before
Sure.
we say goodbye, can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
You can find me, well, first of all, in Wake Forest at any town festival, but also at wildberrypeds.com. My email is drgamble at wildberrypeds.com, which you can put in the show notes. And my number is 703-835-5905. If there's like docs that have questions, I would be happy to talk because I love to talk. And also, I lean on all of my friends, and I would be happy to be that person for someone else.
Awesome. So that's going to be in the show notes below. And Joanna, thank you so much for being with us. It's been a pleasure, and we'll hear from you soon.
Thank you.